Is it on?
On.
This is Sean Fitzgerald from Observe What Is. The subject of this video is on the homeless, and I've got Pat here. He's the chairman of an organization that is actually dealing with the homeless, and I'm gonna interview him on this subject today. To begin with, first introduction from Pat, your full name, your age, are you married, and a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Sean. My name is Pat Potgieter, 66 years old this year, married, 2 children, also happily married.
Do you have any hobbies? Do you spend a lot of your time?
Yes, cooking probably is one of the things that interests me most. I don't watch TV at all, stopped that 3 years ago. Uh, do cooking on the weekends to give my wife a break.
Thank you, Pat. We have a chef here. Okay, let's get down to the subject at hand here. It's a critical subject. It's one of the reasons I started the place, and I'm passionate about it. I really, I felt it's a video I needed to make. Uh, what is the homeless situation in Durban and in South Africa? What is the situation with with homeless people?
There are thousands of homeless folk. Difficult to put a number to it because they come and go. They move on. We do find a lot of people in Durban, especially in the winter months when it's not as cold outside. They used to be primarily on the streets 10, 15, 20 years ago, but lately, due to pressure from authorities, they tend to stay at night shelters. There's still many on the streets, but the bulk of the homeless people in the greater Durban city area are in night shelters.
Pat, this brings up a question here. We see these people on the street corners. We see them at the robots. Are these the same homeless people that is coming to the shelters? Are these the people?
Primarily, yes. There are people that prefer not to go to shelters, probably due to finance and other reasons, but they do tend to move around quite a bit, yes.
The people that are on these corners are people. We should be helping them, correct? I know people wants to give them money and bread. This is right. We should be doing it. We should be doing more of this. Am I right in saying that? I'm not giving my opinion.
Yes, we are called, if you're a Christian, which I am, Bible is very, very clear on the subject. On occasion, Lord Jesus said, what you did done for the least of these, you've done for me. But government has a role to play, business has a role to play, we all have a role to play. I just want to make the point that we don't recommend giving money to people at robots. It simply encourages more people to stand at the robot and to probably they can get hurt, they can get killed. If one wants to give, and once we should be giving, the best is to go to an organization that reaches out to these folk, that knows how to handle these gifts, the food, or go to yourself and go to a night shelter, but preferably don't hand out items at a robot.
Okay. That brings me back to my next question. What do you really need the most? I know people. I think the misconception is funding. People wants to throw money at this or give you money. What do you really need to help with the situation?
We are often asked whether we need funding, and people are normally surprised when we generally answer no. Uh, what we do need is people, more people to reach out. I can do no better than what Paul did in his second letter to the Corinthians in 12 verse 14. He said, I don't want your money, I want you. And that is what we need. We need people with a heart for the homeless, people with a heart for the destitute, to reach out, befriend them, and go and make a difference. It's not just a case of doing handouts. It's a case of getting to know these people as equals, as friends, reaching out to them and assisting them to get back into the mainstream of society.
Pat, I do want to ask you a couple of questions in one. Really, who are they? Who are these people? where do they come from, and why are they there? Why are they here? What would happen to them?
Like across the spectrum, there's not a single specific uh, country or race of that nature. We find Zulu folk on the streets and the shelters. We find Indian folk. We find white folk, coloureds. We do notice that lately we have a lot more foreigners, Swahili-speaking folk from the various countries, especially we have folk from Zimbabwe, DRC, Congo. We have more of them, but it's really a cross spectrum. You also asked Sean, why are they there? What brings them there? Well, we've got to know these folk and spoken to them and ask about their background. Invariably, it turns out that they have an unhappy childhood. I don't ever recall having spoken to somebody on the so-called outers who's come from a happy childhood, a happy home. Invariably, it was a one-parent situation, didn't know the parents, or they left home at an early stage. Invariably, misuse of alcohol played a role. Divorce played a role, drugs played a role. Those are common factors that you'll find. Some of these items are mentioned amongst any of the homeless folk that we deal with.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question I came in and asked you. What is, I hear your answer, and I think it's great, but there's countless examples of people that come from those homes that never end up there. What do you think has happened? What makes those people make those choices? Do you have any idea of what? Because I mean, we know there are people that come from poor homes, that do have stable lives. What actually happens to these ones? Do we know?
You use the right word there, choices. We all can make a choice. We can say yes or no. But it is a fact that those folk who come from broken homes where parents got divorced are more likely to get divorced themselves. Very often those folk who come from homes where alcohol was misused, they also misuse alcohol. But probably the biggest factor is, what is your reference, your framework? What is your value system? As Christians, we're so fortunate to have the Bible as our value system. The Bible guides us, tells us, commands us how to relate to others, how to relate to a situation, how to relate to our spouses, to our employees, our bosses, our superiors, to government, how to relate to specific situations. So it depends on your reference, your framework. If you have that value system, if you have a good value system that you use to base your decisions on, you'll take good decisions. If you don't have a good value system, you're going to take wrong decisions. So it's all about choices. We all have the right to make choices. And if we make the wrong ones, we often suffer the consequences.
And this is my personal with the homeless, homeless people I've met. I find a lot of them have kids. Some of them have kids, grown-up children that are working in other centres in Joburg or whatever. They say they have these things, and those kids have like abandoned them. Is this a case of a person that maybe was in society normally and then just opted out because of depression or alcohol? Does that happen?
Good question. I specifically recall having spoken to a number of people recently when I asked them whether they have family, and a number of the probably slightly older folk said that they do have children, sometimes married children, and when I inquire why they don't go back to them, whether they're getting support from those children, very often, especially if I know the person well, they'll confess to having let their children down so often due to probably drug or alcohol misuse or other factors that their children do not want to know them anymore.
Sure. This brings up a real important thing, because this says that they were once capable of bringing up children. And these children, obviously, a lot of these children went on to be working in places. So at some stage, they had a household. A lot of them had a place. And it just shows you that just something happened.
Very often I've met people, and when I question them about their background, they tell me what they were: financial directors, managing directors, had companies, businesses of their own. But things went awry for various reasons, primarily wrong choices, and how they just sunk down into a pit of problems and into a downward spiral. And that is where we come in, to try and encourage them to get back out of that pit again. We can't just climb in pit with them and sit in the mud with them. We can show them the way. We can encourage. We can help. There are many ways to help. And once again, I must bring the Bible in here, because the Bible is such a wonderful source that shows us the way. And when we share biblical values with our friends on the streets and in the shelters, this often, if they do hold on to those truths, help them to get out of the pit again.
Thank you, Pat. Okay, the shelters. A couple of questions. Do they pay to stay there? Do they sleep there? Do they go there every night for a meal? Can you just give me the rundown on that?
Sure. There are a number of shelters in Durban. We reach out to probably half a dozen or so. Every shelter that we know about is a commercial shelter. In other words, one has to pay there, and the object of the shelter is for the owner, manager, to generate funds, to make money. And whilst there's some good shelters and some shelters that are not so good, all of them basically operate in the same principle, and that is that one comes in the evening, pay your money, be it 20 to 35 rand. The more expensive ones, like 35 rand, might include a basic meal for the evening. The 20 rand, 25 rand ones will not include a meal. And basically all you have is a bed with a mattress. Sometimes there's no bedding, no pillow. And there are toilet and ablution and shower facilities. But the next morning you have to be out again. So these people, as the term they use, they hustle for money. They hustle to just get enough money to stay in the shelter for the night. And if they don't make enough money, or if the money that they do make it's spent on something else, they don't have money for the shelter, then they'll have to sleep on the streets that night.
Thank you, Pat. Is there, obviously when you get to that stage, there's crime down there. There is crime in that. Am I right? There is crime
Yes.
in there. So a lot of them will steal for food and steal for money. And to be able to go to a shelter and have something, because they're going to pay for that too. So yeah, people don't have anything. How are they coming back with this 25 rand? They're standing on corners, or they getting their money somehow. Just can you give me an idea on that?
Yes, we deal with a number of people that are in fact involved in crime. We sometimes even speak to people who sell drugs at the time, but we're not there to condemn them. We're not whistleblowers. We're there to get them out of that cycle, to make some right choices in life. So yeah, crime is inherent in the system. We see it. We have some basic safety rules for our workers, which we share every time before we reach out, about the women not wearing jewelry, no exposed cell phones. Also, we encourage, just out of interest, our workers not to hand out money, because normally when you hand out money, it is misused. It's not used for its intended purpose. So we will help folk where we can with food, with clothing, but certainly not with money.
Thank you, Pat. Demographics, it's equal along the board, white, Indian, black. Are some demographics getting more? I know with the change of government, obviously there's probably more white people that are destitute.
I think the demographics represent that of South Africa, but as I mentioned, we do find lately that there are more foreigners that come into into the night shelters that come into the system of outers. We have a lot more of that, yes.
Thank you, Pat. What's private industry? Um, what is their role in this? What do you think their role should be in this?
I believe we all have a role. I believe the churches have a role to play. I don't think they're always fulfilling that role. I think that they need to go back to the basics of the Bible and listen to what God tells them to do. I believe government has a role to play. I believe that businesses have a role to play. I believe a business is not just about making profit. It also has a responsibility towards society, those in need. I believe all of us have a role to play to uplift these folk that find themselves in a situation where they can't look after themselves, where they don't have enough food, clothing, etc. We all have a role to play. We can't just point the fingers at others and say somebody else must do it. Each one of us must do something about it.
You know, you speak about the church here, and I've seen this. I actually worked at a company where I lent a Muslim gentleman one of our stoves to use, and I think he was also going out every Thursday and feeding all the homeless, and I've actually seen it myself. So I think in terms of religion and the world in general, all religions must get involved in this. All people must get involved in this. Christianity, Muslim, Hindu, and help the homeless. You know, get involved and try and do it different. I want to just say to Pat, I've run out of, I've used all my questions now that I thought was it. I want to know if there's anything else you'd like to add.
Yes, I want to encourage people to get out of their comfort zones and do something. I think there are too many people that it's all about I, me, myself, and we don't think about the homeless. One day they'll have to face the living God and talk to Him about how they've spent their life. I believe if we all did something for the homeless to try and make a difference in their lives, the situation will be greatly relieved. There will be a huge difference.
You know, I want to just pick up. This is observe what is. I don't usually give my opinions. I know every now and then, but this is something that I'm really passionate about. I think this is important, and I'm going to say a few things. We are not only responsible for ourselves and our immediate family. I mean, we are our brother's keepers. You know, that means we are responsible for everybody. You know, and responsible for helping them, and responsible for their needs, and to try. You know. And I just feel that, I think sometimes we think we're only responsible for ourselves and our immediate family, and we're accountable to that. And I personally believe that that's why the world is such a mess.
Absolutely,
Am I right?
absolutely. If I can come back to the biblical example, after Cain killed his brother Abel, God said to Cain, "Where's your brother?" And he said to God, "Am I my brother's keeper?" Now the rest of Scripture answers that question. Yes, we are. We are our brother's keeper. Yes, we are uh, responsible. We have a role to play with our neighbours. If my neighbour's house is burning, I have a role to play to go and help put out the fire. Those folk I come across in the streets, they're my neighbours, they're my neighbour. I need to do something. I stress again that the solution is not just to do handouts, especially not to give money. That normally does not help. It just helps them partake of the wrong things. We do encourage involvement, personal involvement. Get to know somebody. Go and try and make a difference, even if it's in just one person's life on the outers. Go and get to know them and go and make a difference.
There is something, and I do want to end off with this, Pat, because we're getting quite. Really, I'm enjoying this interview. I want to ask you, and I know a lot of us do this. You know, when we go to street corners and the homeless come, a lot of people, and myself included, we look away. We don't want to look at them, or we pretend we're doing something, or we pretend. What is it? What do you think it's in it? Is it in us that actually fears? Because I mean, we can all give something. What do you think we feel? Why are we ashamed to look at them? What is our problem? It's all insight on
Probably some people don't want to part with what they have, don't have time. Maybe they don't know how to handle it. How do you have a conversation with somebody in the outers? How do you start a conversation? And I'm often approached by people, often Christians, churches, who don't know how to conduct a conversation with someone on the outers. So I encourage anyone who wants to get involved, who doesn't know how to go to an organization that does reach out to the homeless. Go and see how it is to go and reach out. And I stress that you reach out to them on an equal basis. You're not preaching to down to them. We teach our workers to always be on the same physical level. If somebody's sitting on a bed, go and sit next to them. Don't look down on them. Somebody once said there, but by the grace of God go I. So we need to share with them and respect them. A lot of these folk, their dignity has taken a knock. They feel inferior. And by sitting next to them and encouraging them and being friendly with them, one can help them to overcome that problem.
Thank you, Pat. We are at the end of the interview. This is Sean Fitzgerald from Observe What Is. Look forward to the videos that come on this. I'm going to be interviewing some of the people that are homeless, and I'm going to be finding out from them what happened to them. Please leave your comments and suggestions. If you like this video, subscribe. It's free. Pat, won't you just hit the red button for me?
Thank you.
Thank you, Pat.